Weight loss plateau is something that I've seen people bust through. They will lose half the weight they need to and then plateau out because they're still inflamed, they're still fight and flight, they're still cortisol to the moon and back.
Hi, welcome to the show. I have my amazing friend Bart, and I just had to express my giddiness and my giggles even before I recorded. And now that I'm recording, I will hopefully giggle less. Busy times, Dr. Bart?
Oh yes, busy. Lots of projects going on, lots of people being wrong on the interwebs. Doesn't look like slowing down anytime soon. Yeah, all manner of businesses and things. How you doing, lovely?
Oh, it's so fun to see you. So so my listeners know or whatever, I met Bart, gosh, it's been a year and a half, I think, right?
Yep.
Yes. I was honored to be part of a team from SBG that did some coaching with him for a 90-day challenge. And then let's see, because Raymond had done something with you the year before, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
It's one of the first things that Raymond asked me when we're, getting to know each other. He says, well, do you know about Bart Kay? Bart Kay, you just couldn't shove about Bart Kay. Why are people so obsessed with you, Bart Kay?
Because I'm brilliant in every way, basically. So, no, I'm kidding. I don't know, really. I have theories. I have many theories on many things. And I have a modicum of success as a social media influencer with 4 or 5 different YouTube channels, an Instagram, a face pages, front-facing page, that kind of thing. You need a hook, I think, some kind of something to attract people to what it is that you're doing, what you're saying, etc. And right back when, about 4 or 5 years ago when I started, I decided my hook would be to ensnare people, not necessarily just with what I was saying, but how I was saying it. And so I took the approach of being abrasive, wary, as condescending as possible to people who were overly confident in themselves, people who were saying things that they weren't qualified to talk about. And I thought, right, I can be polite, I can be professional, I can put on a tie and a collar, and I can do what most people do. And then I'll get results like what most people get when they're attempting to be a YouTube influencer or something of that nature. And I thought to myself, do I want to end up getting the kind of results that most people get? And the answer was no, because very few people actually get beyond a certain level and get to a level of notoriety where they are known well enough that, So I thought, right, let's see if I can shortcut this whole process. So instead of the collar, the tie, the professional. Now I do have a YouTube channel where I do that, by the way.
The collar and the tie and the professional, very straight.
Yeah. Yes, I've got a channel that does just that. It gets 1/10 of the views of my main channel, where I use short words and call people all sorts of things and am abrasive and rude to them. That's just a FYI for people that want to know why it is I behave that way online. Well, that's why. Okay.
Got you. But there's plenty of access to straight and narrow Bart.
There is, if you want to see it. If you want, if you're offended, if you're upset by the way I conduct myself at large, number one, harden up, frankly, get used to it because it's the real world here. Number two, this is a backlash against liberal thinking, woke behavior, which offends me to the core, frankly. But if you want the purely professional, none of the nonsense, the actual, the professorial, professional, all of that, that is available. It's linked as a channel called the Institute for Health Science Integrity, which I think
is very upstanding channel. Okay.
Yep, it's there. If you want to go and find it, and it's linked under every single one of my videos on my main channel in the show notes for people that are interested in that. Now, the flip side of doing that when you're starting off a channel, okay, it got me a fast start, it got me known, it got me a viewership. The flip side of it is that if you're espousing a narrative that is not accepted by the powers that be at the platform concerned, say YouTube, then what they will do when you get to a certain level of notoriety is they will handbrake you by all sorts of nefarious means so that they limit the rate at which your channel can grow. Or indeed, if you annoy them enough, they'll pull you to a complete halt on growth. Or if you go a step further than that, they'll actually just nuke you, bam. They will just delete your channel without a second's hesitation. So there is a very, there's an obstacle course to be run as well. But anyway, I'm sure that's not really the topic you want to talk about. That's just...
Listen, I love talking about anything. You're my friend. I have missed you and I've enjoyed this. And I do have a question about this because yeah, I'm starting YouTube myself and kind of, probably going to go podcast version. And so we've spent quite a bit of time together just through the coaching that we've done. Yeah. So I wanted to pick the brain of Professor Bart Kay and say, what is a hook that I should consider for my angle?
Well, your hook obviously is your demonstrated massive weight loss.
Yeah, thank you.
That's your hook.
Yep.
All you need to do is show the before and after pictures.
Yep. That's
your credibility. That's your credence. That's your qualification to tell people how to do the same thing. And it's your hook.
Absolutely. And that was 150 pounds. And that was a journey that was fasting. Keto kind of went to the fat. But carnivore was the final win for me. Carnivore was the way that I could kind of come over the food addiction and not have that piece of it. When you're looking at that sort of audience, let's say, because let's say my audience are people that have a large amount of weight to lose and they were very, very unhealthy. What are the spots that you send them first when they're looking at that journey?
Well, I mean, it's an interesting one because, I could sit there all day and tell people theoretically, scientifically, actually how to lose massive amounts of weight off their bodies if they want to do that. And, you'd think someone with my level of training, qualifications, and experience would be absolutely credible and people would listen to that. But that's not so necessarily. I have never lost 150 pounds. I doubt I've ever weighed 150 pounds in my life.
Especially times two.
Well, exactly. So people will look at me and they'll go, oh, yeah, well, you're sure you've got all these qualifications, you've published all this research as a scientist in your life and all of that kind of stuff, but you've never been through this.
Right.
This is not something you have done.
Yes.
So if I say, like someone comes to me and says, how do I lose a bunch of weight? I'll say, well, theoretically, here it is. Here are the steps you take. This is what you do. Absolutely. As soon as I say to me, yeah, but you've never done this, I say, sure, you're right. But my good friend, Coach Emily has.
That's right. That's right. And so we have to lead by example in our expertise base. And that's kind of where it comes along. Wow. Incredible. Okay. So you had said, obviously you are a truth warrior against the ridicule of what is being exploited on the interwebs. What have been some of your recent fights? Do I want to know? What have been some of the recent topics?
I mean, there are some ongoing battles, if you like, which flare up, boil over, and then simmer down sometimes for months and months on end before something. And what people need to understand a bit about this is there's nothing personal in any of this. I couldn't care less what Greg Doucette thinks. He doesn't think, frankly. He doesn't have the capacity for it. Okay? To think, you have to have a functioning brain cell. Okay? This is drama. This is play acting. This is a ridiculous game. 4 clicks, 4 views, for interest and intrigue. This is entertainment. I'm educating people by subterfuge before they realize I've done it. And my hook, my way in to educate people before they realize that I've done it is the intrigue, is the abrasion, is the infighting, the outfighting, whatever it is, the argumentation that's going on. That's the thing that inspires people. Say to me, why don't you just do these fantastic interviews that you do and leave this other stuff out of it? And I say, have you looked at my statistics for views? If I, for example, call out young Joey Schwartz, the 19-year-old kid who knows absolutely everything, despite having no qualifications, no schooling beyond high school, no life experience, and no common sense of any kind, actually, who knows more than me, a professor of health science with 3 advanced research degrees, for example, if I call him out on that, 8, 9, 10,000 views within a week.
Oh, man.
If I sit down with a very interesting friend of mine called Niall, who just happens to be a marathon swimmer who will swim 16, 18 hours at a time and swim a marathon running distance in a single swim, who happens also to be a carnivore and does all of that without eating a single carbohydrate in his life ever, 2,000 to 3,000 views in a week if you're lucky. That's why I don't just do that.
Yes.
That's why I have to call out Joey, for example.
You have to go for the drama. You have to go for the facts. And then I think that people are drawn into that. Absolutely. Yeah. And so then this is the other sub message that is coming, is they will probably walk out with a bit of empowerment of something that they can do that makes a difference in their life, but they won't realize it because they might have felt like they just watched a little soap opera, a little something, a little bantering.
Exactly. What I have found with YouTubery and Instagrammery and all of it is the huge majority of people are not remotely interested in being educated. They don't want, okay, some people are. There is a minority that say, yes, we're about the education. We just tell us the facts, just give us the science. Go and watch my other channel where I do that.
Okay.
That's a minority. Most people do not want to be educated. They want to be entertained, used, or they want to be offended, or any combination of that. They want to react emotively to something. They want me to reach through the screen and grab them by the collar and shake them up somehow in some way. And so I oblige.
Beautiful, beautiful. People are wanting to be moved on an emotional feeling level. Yes. And yeah, so of course, as I'm getting in this, I'm like, you're the professor of everything. You're the scientist of everything. We can get into the,
I'm the science. Trust me, don't question me. I'm the science. Yes.
And so, hopefully we'll get into some of these territories, but you are right, Bart. People want that passion, that, okay. And so as you were telling me about, what your hook is to me, is so different from what your hook is out there for getting your marketing. And because I came into this just on Raymond's coattails, like Bart. I'm like, yeah. I want to be a part of this, whatever. And so jumped in on that. And honestly, your humility, transparency, and vulnerability, I hate to say that, but that was truly the thing that I was hooked immediately. It was a different hook.
Yeah, people are often taken aback, and as you quite rightly say, they're hooked in a different way when they actually meet the real person behind all these characters. A lot of people don't seem to understand that the videos I make for YouTube, these are all different characters with personality traits and ways of communicating, ways of speaking that are drawn from all sorts of influences in my life. And I can even tell you where the different affectations come from. Some of them are taken from famous people who are either being themselves or play acting themselves in a certain way. Some of them are from people I've interacted with in the real world, friends, colleagues, whatever. But these are characters. The field marshal is obvious because he dresses differently. Yellow Ted is another obvious character because he's actually made material by a stuffed teddy bear, so it's obviously not actually supposed to be actually me. So there's another obvious one. But the professor, the angry professor, is a different flavor of the professor. The who's wrong on the interwebs guy, these are all slightly different characters, and people just seem to think this is just a bloke on YouTube who's all over the place.
Yes.
Fine, whatever. And then they meet the real me and they go, oh, okay.
Now this is making sense.
Yeah.
The real you. I have recently become aware that there's something you're doing as part of a community, and you have some community things going. And those are, oh my goodness. So I've been part of online communities for a couple of years now in carnivore, and it has been such a powerful experience that I did not expect. It was 2 years ago that I joined at SPG, and I immediately was like, okay, being in a real room with real people, really on Zoom, and getting to see their faces, getting to see how they respond to things, like this is a different kind of a teaching environment. This is a different kind of a learning thing. It's certainly a different kind of a motivating, connecting, identity forming almost, right? And so tell me what you're doing and how that's going. How long has that been going?
Yeah, it's a relatively new community. This is the Wired for Healing community that we're referring to here. And it's headed by Scott the Carnivore Lion.
Everson, yeah.
And Scott Everson, yes. And my partner, Pim, is involved on the training staff, teaching staff. And Annabelle Smithson is involved as well. And they've got some personal trainers and some other experts in different fields that they call on at various times, including myself on their payroll.
Okay,
If you
you're on an expert panel. You're not in the nitty gritty of it at this point.
No, that's right. I'm
Okay.
purely because of my busyness with what I'm doing, really. Otherwise, I would have said, fine, absolutely.
Yes.
I'm like a monthly guest speaker. I'm a resource that people can call on. I'm part of the deal.
Oh, okay.
And that's how I slot into it. But it's around training your thought process, your interaction with the reality in which you find yourself. There are practical techniques that they're teaching, and it's geared around getting your body out of fight and flight, constant activation mode, into rest and recuperate. The sad fact is, even if you do consume the species-appropriate, species-specific diet, if you are locked in fight and flight mode, cortisol production mode, breakdown mode, you're still on the path to self-destruction, while the carnivore approach to living will ameliorate, slow down those breakdown processes, put you in a better place. It doesn't get you over that hump.
Yep.
And you must get your position with respect to the universe squared away to get out of that fight and flight and into that rest and recuperate so that you can heal.
Wow.
You will not heal while you're in fight and flight mode. And if you're locked in that mode, you will not heal.
What are some examples of healing crisis that you see people like that you see them maybe, stall out on that you see resolve once they've kind of got this piece figured out?
Weight loss plateau is something that I've seen people bust through. They will lose half the weight they need to and then plateau out because they're still inflamed, they're still fight and flight, they're still cortisol to the moon and back, and that locks out the last bit of that fat loss journey.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen that being busted through, smashed, that glass floor, if you like.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
The people who have suffered a mold toxicity type problem are getting great results.
Really? Stop. What's the science behind that? What's the science behind, like, help me understand how a mold toxicity issue would relate. I mean, yeah, just
Okay.
draw the line.
I mean, my educated guess on this, without being able to point you to the mechanism, the peer-reviewed research or any of that, my thoughts are that these mold toxins activate a person's immune system in such a way that it smashes off the off button so that you can't turn it off and you remain constantly on high alert body-wise in terms of your immune.
You got an immune alert that's revved up.
Exactly. So as a knock-on from that, you're going to be constantly inflamed. And irrespective of your diet, if you are highly inflamed, you will not lose weight. Even if you eat a caloric deficit.
Wow.
You will retain that fatness, at least to some degree, if not entirely.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my guess on it. And this is a way of, if you can change your thought processes, your interaction with reality, that can change things like your cortisol profile, your inflammation status, as a physical knock-on effect to just changing your thought process. I shouldn't say just changing your thought process.
It's so easy.
It's just do this. I mean, changing your thought process isn't a just thing. It's not just. It's very, very powerful. Your entire reality is a creation of your mind, and it is moldable by the way you use that tool, the very thing that created that very reality. And if you want to get really ethereal, this is not something they teach in the course, I don't believe. This is just my kind of take on it. If you and I, Emily, look at the sky on a clear day, on a clear sunny day, and we have a discussion about it, and I say to you, wow, the sky is blue today, you will agree with me. You will say, I agree with you. That's a stunning blue sky we have today. Great. So we have the same shared experience of that, at least in terms of how we communicate about what it is. It's blue. Now, without using wavelengths or science, physics, any of that, imagine I was born without sight at all. I've never had vision. I've been blind since birth. Now explain blue to me.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way.
Mm-hmm.
I have no framework. I have no experience. There's no way. Now, you can look at a blue sky and feel all sorts of joy. You can thank the Lord above for this beautiful thing, but you cannot make someone who's never seen that understand what that is. The same is true of your thought processes. If you think the blue sky is an ugly thing and it's terrible and it's a negative thing and you feel bad, you're right. That is your reality. So you can absolutely affect your cortisol status, your health in a very physical way, as well as an emotional, spiritual, all of it, just by the way you think about things. That's not everything that's done in this Wired for Healing system at all, remotely. That's just one example of one of the things that they're working on over there.
Wow.
That I'm just privileged to be a part of, really.
Powerful.
I'm the science guy. I'm the guy that talks about ratifying what these other coaches are saying and linking it back with the science in some way and providing my knowledge and experience on physiology and nutrition and all of that. Him, obviously, my lovely partner, is the expert on addiction in terms of sugar addiction, carbohydrate addiction, food addictions. Scott comes from a background of having been injured by pharmacological drugs that were meant to... Well, that's the thing with pharmacological drugs, big pharma. They don't produce a single product that cures anything. Not a damn thing. What they do is they focus entirely on the management of symptomology. Why? Because if they cure you, they can no longer sell you anything. That's why. However, if you have a skin condition or some kind of infection that needs clearing acutely, or a psychological disturbance, that they can come up with a drug that will manage those symptoms and make your life more bearable. So long as you keep taking that drug, then that's what they'll make. That's what they'll sell to the doctors, and that's what the doctors will prescribe. It's not in their interest to cure you of anything.
Right.
Yeah, so that's an aside, but that's just another...
No, it's beautiful. It's understanding the base motivation of all of it. And so I see that your role is to bring this physiological. What's that journey been like for you? I know that you've been on a carnivore journey throughout your life. And were there pharmaceuticals that were part of your life that you were able to let go of? Or, how did nutrition science, did just getting nutrition help you, or did it take a little while? And how did you become convinced that adding more meat to things was going to be a good idea?
Yeah. My journey of now just over 51 trips around the sun.
Hey.
Has been, shall we say, interesting. It hasn't been a straight line journey from A to B, of course, nobody's is, to be fair, but I've had some excursions away from the right path, which have been significant in terms of health. My experience of the reality in which we find ourselves is coloured from the outset by being on the autism spectrum.
Oh, you bet.
Which I only became aware of, got an understanding of, had any form of kind of diagnosis on, well and truly into my late 40s.
Oh, wow.
This is a very recent understanding that this is what was definitely going on for myself. And then the light bulb was all over the place. Well, that explains all of it, pretty much, in terms of the hard wiring, the different engagement with reality, the different sort of engagement with people variously at various times for various reasons, the things that blew up in my face that I couldn't understand why. if only I could go back to a lot of those people and say, oh, and by the way, what we didn't know back then was, and they'd all go, oh, of course, right. But their view of me is coloured by the fact that people just assume a person to be the average person.
Sure.
For some reason, whatever the hell that is. So the autism, very real thing for my whole life, only understood, and therefore only really any capacity to moderate, to work on that, to change less than useful aspects of that for me and those around me, my nearest and dearest, once I understood it. You can't get a handle on something if you don't know what's going on or what it is. Right. If it's some ephemeral, amorphous thing, there's nothing to grab, there's nothing to twist or change or mold. It's just this thing. Now I know what it is, that crystallizes it. It gives it a form, it gives it a shape, and I can mold that thing. Cool. So there's been that. My health physically and mentally for the first 27 years was really poor because my diet was the standard diet, because my parents didn't know any better. I didn't know any better when I became an adult, so I continued that. I couldn't understand why my health was so poor. I had just about every digestive disorder, breakdown, problem that you could think of. Yeah. If you said to me, have you ever had? I would probably go, yep, I had that. Yep, I had, yep. So we're talking pancreatitis. We're talking diverticulosis. We're talking celiac disease. We're talking chronic systemic inflammation, skin conditions, asthma, the whole shooting box. Yep. We're talking depression, bipolar, anxiety disorder, agoraphobia even. At one point, I didn't leave my house for a year. Could not leave the house. Yeah. All of those things are a real part of my experience, my reality in the past. 27 years ago, I decided purely out of my hardwired belligerence to do the exact opposite of what the so-called experts say I should, that I would give this jolly fad keto thing, this keto, this thing that we've been doing.
It was fad 27 years ago.
Then. I mean, the keto approach to life has been a fad cyclically 3 or 4 times while I've been alive. There have been periods of a few years where this was the new fad, even though a fad is a new thing, and ketogenic approaches to life humans have been undertaking for 350,000 years in our current form, and probably 4.5 million prior to that. Very much a fad, that. No. Anywho, it was a fad 27 years ago, and I thought, right, this is different from what we're being told. I am absolutely hardwired to push back against any form of authority, and so I will prove you bastards wrong, and I will do this keto, and I'll show you.
In this realm, is it popular during that time, the Atkins approach or whatever?
It was going through one of its periods of it having enough popularity, enough fattiness that it was in the awareness of people, and it was there that was, obviously it was visible enough that someone like myself who was vaguely looking around at the time would see it. Right, that's different from what I'm being told. I'm going to do that just to prove them wrong about being, So I did. And I've been basically following various forms of ketogenic lifestyle ever since. So 27 years. What I found on keto, standard keto, was that got rid of about 75% of my health issues.
Yep.
That's an estimate. I have no gauge. I have no measurement tool to say, yes, it was 75.6%. I'm just saying I felt 75% better. And that is with reference to how I feel on a day-by-day basis now, if you like. So it's important. The biggest thing was to remove the carbohydrates and much of the fiber from the diet, along with seed oils. So very, very bad thing because of their pro-inflammatory effect. And as I say, 75%, which I thought was 100% then, because I'd never been that well. So I thought this is as good as it gets.
100% right there with this keto. Yeah.
Exactly. So cool. About maybe 8.5 years ago now, was the first time I ever heard about anyone doing this crazy carnivore thing where they take the keto to the next step.
Close to 9 years ago, you heard about it.
There and thereabouts. And I kind of dismissed it, even though I'd been keto for so long. And I went, that's just a step too far. That's nuts. I thought to myself, I didn't even look at it really. And I just kind of shelved it over there. About 4 years before that point, where I first heard about the carnivore approach to life, I came across a nutraceutical product. It's the cereal product that I promote quite heavily these days. That's a product I've been consuming on a daily basis now for, I think, about 13 years. 13, not 30, because
yes,
13 years. The product has been available in various different forms through various different companies for about 30 years. I've been aware of it for about 13 and taking it for that long. It is miraculous. What I experienced coincident with taking that product. And I say that because the FDA won't allow any statement of cause and effect on this product.
Mm-hmm.
And we all know that the FDA is absolutely all about looking after our safety and health. Of course they are. Anywho, that's for another day as well. So I started taking this product back then, and it's a product that encourages the release of adult stem cells.
Gotcha.
And adult stem cells renew and repair tissues in your body of any kind, except sperm and eggs. And I think that's probably a good thing.
those are meant to have an expiration.
No, I don't want any extra of those. Thank you. But eye cells, I had a very serious eye complaint. I was told I was going to go blind. And I was told I could expect to be completely blind within about 5 or 6 years from that point, 13 years ago. Long story short, didn't happen. My eyesight is now better than it was back then, in my late 30s as it was at the time. What else? Skin cells. If you need new skin cells, we've got a program for that. Heart cells. Maybe you've had a heart complaint or something like that. Nervous cells, brain cells, fingernail, anything but bloody hair follicle cells.
Oh, that neither. Dang it.
It's not a health concern. It's not tissue that's dysfunctional in terms of something that would affect my health. And so it's not a priority for my body. And so my body is busy using the adult stem cells that are being released for much more useful things. That's why it doesn't solve baldness, because,
No.
Of course. And bald is sexy anyway.
That's what I'm going to say. It's a good look. My husband's bald. I dig it. I'm good with this. This is okay.
Yeah. And I can always put a wig on if I want to play a character that's got hair.
So you got into the 3 big ones: carbohydrates, fiber, and seed oils. Let's get into it.
Yep. So carbohydrate, as consumed in your diet, are completely unnecessary. Your exact dietary requirement for carbohydrates is not 1 single gram ever. None. 0. You do not need to consume carbohydrates. Your body does need some carbohydrates. Yes, that is correct. But your body is capable of making those carbohydrates itself from fats, well, the backbone of fats, the glycerol backbone, from some amino acids, some proteins, or from monocarboxylates such as lactate, which is produced when, for example, your muscles do exercise.
Gotcha.
Those are the 3 main precursors that your body can make its own glucose from. And it does, to the exact level that glucose is required on a needs basis.
Love it.
If you consume carbohydrate in your diet, you eat things that contain carbohydrates, that will obviate the need for your body to produce the required level of carbohydrate. So it won't do that. That'll be fine. But any carbohydrate you put in on top of your need, which is down here, very low amount.
0 or
that carbohydrate has to go somewhere.
Yep.
Where does it go? Well, carbohydrate above a certain level in your body is toxic. It will destroy your tissues. Sugars, which are what carbohydrates break down to in your body, sugars bind to proteins, to fat molecules, the things that your body is actually made from, and it chemically alters those things by chemically binding to those things.
Is that called glycating?
Exactly. It's called glycation.
Mm-hmm.
And when you hear about glycation damage, that's what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about sugar molecules binding to your protein structures, your fat bearing structures in your body,
Mm-hmm.
and chemically changing them in such a way as to interfere with their function,
Mm-hmm.
to break down the way that they work, to destroy the functional processes, basically.
It kind of handicaps them. So you have these other processes that you're talking about, the proteins and the fats and these things that have very specific purposes. And when you have a glycation in it, it kind of like weakens them and blows out their capacity to do what they're supposed to do.
Glycation is one of, not the only cause, but one of the clear, obvious causes of apparent aging of a person. If you look at a person and you look at how old they look, you look at their skin, what age does that person look? A lot of that damage is that glycation damage, that sugar damage to molecules. And it can happen incredibly rapidly. Example, take a look at an image of one Dr. Paul Saladino 3 years ago, when he was a fully carnivorous man of about, I think he was about 44 at the time. And he looks to be possibly in his mid to late 30s.
Sure.
That's what he looked like about 3 years ago. And then you look at an image of Paul Saladino taken in the last few months. Sure, he's been living in Costa Rica, out in the sun, surfing 3 hours a day, absolutely. But that is not going to do to your skin what you see when you look at the difference between those two images. Do it for yourself, your own homework, and you will see that Paul now looks to be at least 50. And
you
he's
can
not
almost,
50.
when you think of the term aging, you can almost just substitute glycating in a substitution of that.
You could.
And, when we're thinking about premature aging versus, gosh, in the carnivore space, so many of us look oddly younger than our age or whatever. But I've heard it said, no, that's actually what's normal. Like everybody should be looking like that. Everybody else that's highly glycated every single day of their life.
Oh, look, you talk to experts in the field of comparative anatomy, biology, genetic studies, those kind of characters. And you ask one of these people, what do you think the normal human lifespan should be if we would just get out of our own way and live the way that we are biologically designed to? They'll tell you it's 150.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
No, you look at someone like me who's been living a fairly clean dietary pattern for 27 years and a very clean one for about 8.5.
Yep.
And if you didn't know, and I said to you, I'm 51 years of age, most people would say, get out of here. No, you're not. Oh, I'm sorry. That's what my birth certificate says. That's what it is. And I've spoken to a number of carnivores who have been carnivore for even between 5 and 10 years. And most of them appear to be a great deal more youthful than what they should, compared with everyone eating carbohydrates and junk.
Yes.
So aging is what sugar does to you. Absolutely. The other thing sugar does to you is it causes you to be chronically, systemically inflamed because of its toxic nature. Now, chronic systemic inflammation, as distinct from useful, indicated acute inflammation, when it becomes chronic and it never resolves, that is not a good thing. And it is the underpinning cause of most cancer, obesity. That is an inflammatory process, is obesity. Heart disease, atherosclerosis, most forms of dementia. Basically all the big killers, the thing that takes people out before they're 150, all down to chronic systemic inflammation.
Yeah.
The inflammation is down to sugar, carbohydrates, plant toxins, anti-nutrients, and your gut's huge, vast inflammatory response to contraindicated fiber and seed oils.
Good. This is, I want to get on this. And so I love the kind of talk that's happening here. I love this longevity piece. Who doesn't want that? This is so important. And I love what you're saying. And so it is, we know there's other issues. There's mindset issues, there's inflammatory issues where I want to get to the seed oils and the fiber. What percent is food in this picture-ish?
Right. Okay. I think if I was put on the spot and asked to give an educated estimate, and that's all it is, an estimate of the relative importance of the various aspects of life, I am now teaching 6 life hacks. It used to be 5 that I have. Actually, I have a video which is called 4 life hacks.
Right, that's what I thought. I thought it was
Now,
a few.
at the time, I had 5 at the time. I've covered 4 in that video because I was doing it in 5 minutes or less, and I ran out of 5 minutes after the 4th one, so I stopped the video and said, right, let's do 4. And I've given those things in the order of priority that I think they take.
Yeah.
Now, that's not to say that you can negotiate with this thing and you can choose to do the top 3 and leave out the bottom 3 and expect 100% result. No, none of these things are negotiable. You need to do all of them to get the best probability of the 100% result in your case, in your life. That said, I think they do have a ranking in importance. The correct species-appropriate, species-specific diet for a human being is number 1, no question. And I would say it's probably 70% of the battle. That's a guess. That's just a number. But I think it's there and thereabouts. So that means a diet consisting solely of the muscle meat of mostly large ruminant animals. Beef is the first choice for most people. Okay, not the organs,
not
the muscle meat,
not what they feed to their babies.
No, not necessarily that. I mean, that's a choice. People can have dairy if they are convinced absolutely that dairy is not doing them any harm, that they're not reacting to it negatively. However, 2 out of 3 people alive on the planet will react in some way to some level negatively to dairy. 1/3 of people can get away with it. Those people, I would suggest to you, so long as you are an ideal body composition, you don't have extra fat on your body, you don't have problems with mucus, you don't have skin irritation issues, you don't have poor health in any way, you feel like you are absolutely 100% full of vitality, health, you don't have skin wrinkles, even if you're in your mid-50s, that sort of thing, and you think that dairy is part of that for you and is doing you good, you keep doing that. If it's not broken, don't fix it. For everybody else, dairy to the side, please, I would say. If you experience any of those things I've just mentioned at all, then dairy goes, in my mind. Okay, so muscle meat and associated fat that comes with that muscle meat. A dairy exception here, butter, creamery butter, basically. Butter made from cream is what I'm saying. Salted or unsalted, doesn't matter. That is a great addition. Salt and water. That's your diet for nutrition.
There it is. 70% of that's where we need to be is right there.
Anything apart from that which is okay by me under number 2, which I'll give you in a minute, will drag you down, most likely.
Yep.
Okay. Oh, but I must have some herbs, whatever you want to call them, on my meat for flavor. Fine. That's your choice, but it will probably drag you down to some degree. Oh, but I must have some yogurt. Fine. It'll probably drag you down to some degree. It's for you to make your decision as to where you're happy to sit. Oh, I've got to have 400 grams a day of fruit and honey. No, that will destroy you.
That's not just going to drag you down. That's going to bury you and put the dirt on top.
Not only will that wreck you physically, Paul Saladino, it will destroy your credibility, Paul Saladino. Okay, that's it. So that's number 1. Eat the correct diet, 70% of the battle there. I would say another 20% on top of that, so we're up to 90, is covered by doing 1 and 2. And number 2 is cereal products, stem cell enhancing, nutraceutical product range, Available from the fine folks at Harveaux. And for those that are interested in accessing that product, you should contact me and or go directly to the link, both of which my email is linked on my YouTube channel. You can find it. Or if you want the link directly, it's that bit.ly link, which you'll find in the show notes under every single one of my videos on my channel to get that done, basically. Number 2. If you want to know which products to take on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, I can give you advice on that if you like, and I can advise you on the cheapest way of doing it. You don't have to pay full retail. Please don't. I'll allow you to, and I'll put the money in the bank and use it to keep the lights on if you want to pay full retail for some reason, but there's no need for you to do so. Right, that's number 2. Number 3 is to ground yourself to the earth electrically as much of the time as that is physically possible in your life. Right now, I am electrically grounded because I am touching a pad on my desk, which is electrically grounded to the earth. It is connected to a cable, a copper cable, an insulated copper cable, which extends to a stake in the ground outside the window.
Cool.
When I sleep, underneath the bed sheet is a similar mat made of similar material, which is electrically conductive, connected to a wire, which is connected to a stake outside the bedroom window at the other end of the house. So I sleep grounded. If we're sitting in the middle of the house where the TV room is, because maybe we want to throw some more brain cells out the window or flush them in some way or watch some nonsense on the idiot box, and there's a wrist or ankle strap for each of us that we can strap on at that time should we feel like doing it. I am grounded electrically to the earth probably 20 hours a day.
Cool. Yeah.
Most people can't achieve that because they're working a job, they're doing things, that whatever else, they're wearing rubber-soled shoes, they're driving around in cars with rubber tires. They're not grounded when they're at home because they're living in an electrically insulated building, which is what the standard code is now. And they don't sleep grounded. So they will suffer the consequences of that. That's probably another 5 to 7%. So now we're up to 95 to 97. Number 4 is blocking blue wavelengths of light out of your eyes after dark.
Nice.
So if the sun is below the horizon, i.e. it is nighttime, you should not be seeing blue.
Nice.
You should, basically, this is how I do it.
Oh, hey, handy. Yeah.
I'll take those off because it's daytime at the moment. That's it. And by the way, blue blocking lenses are that color.
Gotcha.
Dark orange. They are not yellow. Yellow is not a full blue block. It's a partial blue block. Not good enough. Dark orange.
Nice.
If they're clear, there are some blue blocking computer spectacles that don't distort the colors. You can still see blue. If you can see blue, it ain't fucking blocked. Jesus, excuse my French, but people, seriously, use your brains. Okay, if you can see blue, it's not blocked. All right?
Nice.
Goodness gracious. All right, so that's number 4, and that's a couple of percent. Number 5 is the right amount of the right exercise at the right intensity on the right schedule, the right number of times a week. That's a whole lecture by itself. I won't go into it today, and it's only like a 1 or 2%.
Yep.
Now that's coming from someone whose first advanced research degree was as an exercise physiologist.
And it's in the 1%.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's minor.
Yeah.
The benefits of the right exercise on the right schedule at the right intensity, the right number, all of that stuff are great. I'll give you that. They are. They're fantastic. But they're not the answer to the stuff we're talking about, the inflammatory stuff we're talking about. And they're not the answer for weight loss. If you're trying to lose fat off your body, exercise is not the answer. Sorry to all you health influencers, you thousands of you that have millions and millions of supporters whose only look is having a good body themselves. Now, I'll send you a recent picture of myself shirtless, if you like, actually, that you can use for thumbnail purpose or put up on the screen or whatever. Now, I'm not saying I have the greatest body in the world. I don't. But that which, such that it is, I'm proud of it, and rightly so, I think, that is achieved without exercise to speak of at all.
Absolutely. You're still doing, I remember when we were coaching, you would come over and do a couple of this here, do a couple of that here, like
literally,
very, very minor.
I have no planned approach to exercise.
Yeah.
Not attempting to build muscle mass. I'm going to. I keep saying I'm going to, and I will at some point when I'm perhaps a bit less busy with being someone who's trying to build an empire to a certain level whereby I can then sit back and relax about it. But in the meantime, I really don't have a planned exercise approach. So there's that. And that's number 5.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Number 6, I think, is an overarching bracketed with the top 5, doesn't have a number of its own because I haven't really thought about it. It's a new thing for me. It's a new addition, and I really don't know where to place it. I think it is very important now that I understand what it is and what we're trying to do there. And it is the Wired for Healing community. Number 1, because it's a community and we need community. Many of us are insular in our real lives, and that's how the powers that be have wanted us to become. That's been part of their evil plan all along, to
isolate,
to separate ourselves from others, physically and all of that. Pim and I do that naturally because I'm definitely on the spectrum, and I think she is too. She doesn't think she is, but I'm diagnosing her without any qualifications.
So,
and I've said it to her face, and I've said it publicly before, and she will give her views on it. She'll say, "No, you're absolutely barking mad, and I'm not remotely autistic." I think she is. I'm absolutely convinced. Both of us are kind of the opinion that in the real world, most people that you would interact with, most people are awful. We can do without people, frankly. We live rurally, 35 minutes out the back of nowhere. The nearest store is 35 minutes drive from here. Our nearest neighbour is the landlord, who is over there. I can see the smoke coming from their chimney at their house. And behind them is the hillside where the pine trees are. And behind that is the beautiful blue sky. And, I can hear birds getting ready for winter. It's fall time here, of course. I can hear a cow mooing away in the bottom paddock because she's horny and there's no bull here and she won't shut up about it. Bitch, jump the fence, whatever, I'm kidding. It's idyllic. It's beautiful. There is not a person to be seen or heard. I can just hear traffic from the main highway that runs about a mile over there. If I'm outside, I can hear that. Right now, I can't hear it with these headphones. I'm talking to you. And, if I never saw another actual human being, I probably wouldn't fret too much. I enjoy my online interactions with people. I enjoy my electronic life. That's great. The good thing about that is I can turn the whole computer off and turn the whole thing off and go and do something else anytime I want.
Absolutely.
I'm not stuck with anybody.
Oh, no.
So that's that.
I'm glad it made the list.
Most of us do need community. We do need to be connected in some way. So that's the first reason that it's important. The second reason is that Scott and his team, his growing team now, are absolutely putting forth a program which I believe and understand will likely have a positive effect on a person's socio-physical, mental health view of that thing they create around them called reality. And that will have, most likely, a positive effect on their actual physical, emotional, biological, hormonal system function, their inflammation, and it will put them in a position, likely, that they will finally be able to actually heal. The thing that the diet alone couldn't quite get them to.
That's right.
So when I realized that diet was 70%, not 100, that's when I started adding these other things and got down to number 5. Now number 6 is there, and I'm still kind of waiting for that to slot somewhere.
Number 6 it's a keyhole that opens up, and it opens up the other 5, actually.
It facilitates the other 5. It synergizes with the other 5. It makes the other 5 that much more powerful again. Now, having done a couple of periods of absolute fanatical 100% adherence to absolutely no plant material or carbohydrates of any kind for 90 days at a time on 2 periods, because For full disclosure, I'm 95% adherent on average now.
We know that. We know, Bart. It's okay.
Now, that last 5%, you take that last 5% out and go 100% for a period, you get to 200% health.
Oh, beautiful. Beautiful. And one of those periods is what you're talking about when we did with me and Raymond. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That was one of them. The other one was one I kind of did with my friend Jessica here in New Zealand at the beginning of this year.
I saw you guys do that. It's fantastic.
And we had a community going, an electronic community around going for that. And we kind of went through that in a low key sort of a way. And that was the second time I went through it. And I got the same thing again.
Yes.
My self-discipline, the way I want to live my life doesn't allow me to be that adherent all the time. That's stressful for me. And so I go, right, 95%, I lose 50%.
Right.
But I don't go mad in the meantime.
You don't go mad. You stay honest. Yeah.
It's an okay level for me. I'm happy with it for now.
Yes. Yes.
And the great, I know anytime I want to quickly improve my health rapidly, vastly, hugely, I know that my body reacts very rapidly to 100% carnivore. And within 90 days, I can drop 10, 15 pounds.
Yep.
Off a frame, frankly, that's under 140 pounds as we speak anyway. But that 15 pounds is a small amount of fat and a bunch of water that is there because of a subclinical level of inflammation. So anytime I want that off, I can do 90 days of carnivore clean up and then go back to 95 for 6 months and then do another 90 days absolutely clean. And it's kind of it keeps me there and thereabouts, I think.
The beautiful thing. Professor, I don't know how much time you have today. I know we kind of had this,
I've cleared the decks for you, Millie. I've
cleared
the decks.
Oh, okay. Because I do want to touch on the other two kind of big ones that we got there. And I just appreciate this. I felt like I got the in-depth of your overall umbrella philosophy. So we're looking at fiber and cetyl. I want to hear some thoughts on those.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. The human gut has evolved through genetic drift as a function of both positive and negative selection pressures, i.e. the human gut, its morphology, the way it's put together, the way it functions, is informed by the foods that humans have eaten.
And this is intestines. Are we talking top of the stomach all the way? When someone says the gut, what are they talking about?
Right, specifically, very good point, well made. Specifically, I'm talking about the hind gut. I'm talking about the large intestine. I'm talking about the colon.
Okay, great. The ascending.
What I'm saying is true of every aspect of your body upstream of that as well. Those are all affected by positive and negative selection pressures. Those are all affected by the foods we have chosen to eat without any question as a species at large over hundreds of thousands of years as humans and over millions of years prior to that in species nearly human but not yet quite human as per wherever we've scientifically drawn the line. Right, this is where humans as we know them began about 350,000 years ago. The story is humans' ancestors were primates that lived in trees and ate leaves and fruit almost entirely, with some insects as well, by the way, for millions and millions of years prior to this point, about 5 million years ago. Then the climate changed, the world changed, things changed in such a way as that species had to adapt or die. They had enough intelligence to adapt, and what they did is they came down out of the trees, stood up on their hind legs. Ooh, tasty, tasty beasties. Now, we don't have sharp, pointy teeth like this or claws. How are we going to do what those big cats are doing, or those big megafauna beasts are doing, as it was at the time, actually? Opposable thumb, brain, the ability to communicate a bit. Let's hunt in packs with sharp, pointy sticks. Let's throw rocks. Let's make noise. Let's scare these animals into going over cliffs or whatever. That's how it started. Obviously, we weren't that successful up front. It was one of those things that had to develop, which necessitated a bigger brain, more stature, more upright, more of the time, better communication strategies, more articulate tongues, and all of that sort of stuff. Okay, that all developed over time. But the archaeological record, the actual hard science on skeletal remains of humans, proto-humans, whatever, all point the same way. They've been tested chemically, and that gives us an absolute unequivocal means there is no question, by the way. It means this is a slam dunk. And it tells us what these species of humans and proto-humans definitely did eat, no question. It was the flesh and fat of animals almost exclusively. As such, our genes respond to that. The genes that are useful in regard to absorbing that food stuff predominate. The genes that have no effect on that remain, and the genes that were negative are wiped out of the gene pool. That's how evolution works. Again, unequivocally, fact. That doesn't mean the good book is wrong necessarily. What it means is the good book is not a literal history of the world. It is a message. It is a theology. It's a way of thinking about things. These things are not at loggerheads. How did the universe begin in the first place? Supposedly in this thing they call the Big Bang, which, funnily enough, was neither big nor was there a bang, because there was nothing for a bang to translate through, and it started from a singularity which has exactly no spatial dimension, so it wasn't big. It very quickly became a big thing, the universe.
It was a small quiet.
That's it. It wasn't a big bang, it was a small quiet. Exactly. Anyway, who's to say that isn't the thing that's referred to in the good book as the Lord saying, let there be light?
A small quiet.
Small quiet, yes. Something like 13.8 thousand million years ago. Not 6,000 years ago, as the book indicates. The thing that people need to understand is the book that we're referring to, the good book, was words, is words invented by men and women, people, and it is an interpretation of the message written in those words by those humans as they interpret that message to be. It is not the inviolate word of God. The only way to hear that is to end up dead at some point, which we all will, and then maybe we'll get to hear that. Who knows? In the meantime, evolution is a fact, no question. So deal with it, okay? That being said, our bodies have changed over time, and the structure that we would need to break down plant material, the structures that we would need in our hind gut, are no longer there. They are vestigial, is the word. There is this, in an animal like, some of our closest relatives, like chimpanzees, who eat meat, by the way, they do, when they can get it, absolutely. Gorillas, same deal. Present a gorilla with meat, it will eat it happily. But these are largely herbivorous animals, and as such, they have this structure which juts out from their large colon called a cecum. It's this huge convoluted organ. It's the thing that causes them to have this great
that big pot belly.
Yeah. And it's full of bacteria and gases and stuff attendant with those bacteria, that their role is to break down plant material that neither us nor they can actually digest at all. And as such, that's how they do that to any degree, with this huge thing called a cecum. Humans still have one.
Their gut health. they need that for their guts.
Right. Now, humans actually still do have a cecum. It still remains to some degree. It's about that big.
Right.
It's called your appendix.
That's what I thought. That's where I was going. Okay.
Mostly, it's vestigial. It serves no real role, we think. They think it possibly has still some role in your immune function, very minor. But it
don't recommend you that X out for no reason.
But it certainly can't house this huge kilograms worth of bacteria that, sometimes tens of kilograms of bacteria that break down plant material and provide short chain, fully saturated, by the way, fatty acids as a result that the animal can absorb and use for energy.
Right.
So we have very few bacteria. We have a very, very limited capacity to break down fiber at all. And our gut lining is no longer designed to cope with fiber. It is designed for the remnant materials, very minor as they are, very limited as they are, from eating meat and fat. And as such, fiber is hugely disturbing to gut function, causes leaky gut, causes chronic systemic inflammation, causes all the sequelae, the knock-on effects of that inflammation, including, as I said earlier, heart disease, cancer, obesity, most dementia, all the big killers that will get
the fibers related to that. The fibers related to those inflammatory.
Yes. Yeah. If your gut is inflamed, you are inflamed.
Yep.
As a whole organism. There are more nerve endings that are sensitive to badness and goodness in your gut wall lining than there are nerve endings anywhere else in your body outside of your brain.
Not just the sugar that's inflammatory, the fiber plays just a role in all of those inflammatory conditions.
So 2 of the 3 things have been covered there, and the 2 of the 3 things that you must eliminate. You must eliminate carbohydrates. You must eliminate fiber. The 3rd thing you must eliminate is all industrial seed oils, because they directly upregulate the pro-inflammatory pathway metabolically. Seed oils extracted, concentrated in bottles, drawn out of usually seeds or other parts of plants, and refined and put in bottles with a Heart Foundation tick on them because they're good for you. Tee-hee. Absolutely the worst thing you can put into your body, so-called food-wise, even worse than the other 2, carbs and fiber, without any question in my mind.
Yep.
Under no circumstances should seed oil pass your lips, ever.
Absolute poison.
Absolute poison. Yeah. So that's the take on the dietary side of things.
Beautiful. Can you help me understand how they say that seed oils stay in your body somehow? Where does it stay in your body? Like kind of a half-life that is out there.
Yeah. Remember earlier we were talking about the various protein and fat-based structures in your body?
Yeah.
Okay. One of the most important fat-based structures in the human body is the membrane, which encases and closes every single cell in your body. How many cells are there in your body? Trillions. Every single one of those cells relies entirely on a membrane composed largely of fat. The form of fat that is supposed to make up that membrane is a saturated fat, the very kind that you're told you should avoid because it will kill you somehow. No. If you instead substitute unsaturated oils instead of the saturated fats in your diet, these unsaturated fats can displace the saturated fats in those cell membranes and become a structural part of your body. They will not function properly. They have a different chemical structure. They have different shapes. They're all often different directions, some of these things, because of double bonds and unhydrogenized carbons, and they all twist all over the place. They are like a gnarly old twisted tree, whereas a saturated fat molecule is straight up and down, basically.
Why does it take so long for them to get out?
Because your body removes junk on a schedule, and it does that when it's undertaking a thing called autophagy, which is when the removal of junk for either recycling or removal from your body occurs. Your body doesn't undertake autophagy as much as it should for various reasons, and even more so in modern lifestyles that most people lead, largely because one of the things that will shut autophagy down almost immediately is inflammation. Hello.
There's a lot of these things go in scales like this, and so autophagy, inflammation comes up, autophagy shuts.
That's right. So that's the end of autophagy, and so those things will sit there on a half-life. It can take 3 or 4 years in some cell lines to get those twisted, gnarly, out of shape fats that are causing problems in that cell membrane, destroying that cell's function, basically. 4 years it can sit there doing damage.
Yep. And getting this whole, I can't remember what you call it, the inflammatory, what did you call it? Something.
Pro-inflammatory pathways. Yeah.
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 Gets those going. Wow.
Yeah.
Phenomenal. Is that part of the why when you're saying if there was one poison, if you had, here's your 3 poisons, your seed oil, your carbohydrate, and your fiber, is that one of the reasons that vegetable oil, the seed oils is ranked so high in that, is just the length of time?
Yeah. For me, if someone says, I'm going to remove one of these things from my diet, fiber, seed oils, or carbohydrate, I'm only going to do one. Which one do you think I should do? Seed oil, without any hesitation, immediately. Keep eating carbs and fiber in preference to any amount of seed oil ever.
I love it. And it's kind of the same thing about when people are saying, oh, well, should I eat protein or fat? Yes. Or should I cut these things out? Yes. And so they go together beautifully when you kind of wrap your lifestyle and heading into a better direction. Professor, this has been amazing. I just have learned so much and clarified so much. You are such a great educator. The pace, you're in no hurry. You just help us to really break down and understand things. And I just think that this is going to be such an incredible resource for people. So I thank you so much for your time today.
My pleasure. And my privilege. Privilege.
Obviously. Any closing thoughts or any other things that you want to, send out to our listeners?
Yeah, look, I mean, the usual things. I'm sure people know where to find me. If you don't, go to YouTube and type in @Bart-Kay and you'll find me. There it is. I've also have an Instagram if people are interested in that. Again, just search for me by name. I'll come up, I'm sure. In the meantime, though, from me to you, it's been too long.
That's right. That's right.
I look forward to interacting with you more and let's make that happen. And, I'd love to work together again on something, anytime, any day, any 2 o'clock. Let's do it.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you so much.